Senator from South Carolina.
Mr. President, welcome back. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. If you were like me, you probably had a number of town halls, and I know a number of our colleagues over the holidays did. I saw a number of them on television, and saw the many thousands of Americans who came to town halls as they did to mine, who were very concerned about the direction of our country. Frankly, in South Carolina, I had several thousand people come to different town hall meetings, all with a very similar point of view. They thought this government had gotten too big, was spending too much money, we were taxing too much and taking over too much of our economy. A lot of people were very concerned, not just about health care. I can't agree with the senators. There's many things we need to do, but the last thing we should do is have this government take it over. There are many things we can do to make sure people get more insured, but the people who came to my town halls and across the country, many other town halls, were not just concerned about one issue. They looked back over the last year, over a Republican and Democrat president, to see two failed stimulus bills, two bailouts, which many believe were unconstitutional, the proposed takeover of the energy and healthcare industries, and the actual takeover of banks and insurance companies and car makers. People are fed up. The federal government is simply too big. The debts we're looking at now for ourselves and our children and our grandchildren are truly unsustainable. People don't know where the money's coming from. They wonder what we're thinking about. And the amazing thing is, after what we saw over the break, the genuine outrage and concern by the American people, the very first item of business that we're going to vote on in this Senate today, after the August break, is to vote to start another government program, to spend $400 million to increase taxes, to get the federal government involved in another private sector business. What did we learn over our summer vacation? If we vote to pass this bill, we obviously learned very little. What I'm talking about is the Travel Promotion Act. Many of you here in the gallery and around the country think I'm probably making this up, that after what we saw across America, that we would actually have the nerve to bring up a bill that forms a new government-sponsored enterprise, a la Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And it's going to be a government-sponsored enterprise that promotes travel and tourism in America. I guess we can call it Fannie Travel. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the idea, because the idea is that travel and tourism in America is a very important industry, which it is. It's the #1 industry in South Carolina. It's actually one of the most prosperous. And that's the main reason we don't want the federal government to get involved with it. But the idea is this: we're going to charge a $10 fee for everyone who comes to visit America in order to pay for this advertising program that will promote America to people all over the world. All these fees would be pooled, and they would be matched by some of the major tourism industries such as Disney, and we would have a government-sponsored enterprise that's promoting tourism. But they're saying it really won't cost Americans anything because this is a tax on foreigners coming to this country. But I've got a letter in my office from the European Union and other allies of this country that says that this is violating the agreements we had with them. And if we do this, they're going to add a similar fee to Americans visiting their country. We're going to start a war with some of our friends. It will ultimately end up costing Americans money. It will create another government entity. And folks, it's not a crisis. This is not one of those emergencies that we have to do this week. Why, when we have all of this debt, would we create another program and another tax that this federal government is going to run? Maybe it's fanny travel, maybe it's cash for tourism. But folks, the problem with tourism in America is not that people don't know we're here. The problem is we've got one of the most notoriously unfriendly customs and immigration services in the world. We also are one of the most difficult countries to get a visa for. I have a major international employer back in my home state who regularly needs to bring people from other parts of the world to train American workers, but they can't get visas, so they send American workers to other countries to get the training they need because it's so much trouble to get the visas to get them in here. Major industries have trade shows outside of this country because you can't get the visas for customers coming in looking at our products. The problem is not that people don't know we're here. It's just that the government involvement that's already involved with tourism and travel in our country is not doing a good job. And when you have problems with the quality of your product, the last thing you do is raise your prices and increase advertising, which is what we're talking about doing with this bill. The first thing we need to do is make sure we have the most friendly and efficient customs system in the world, and that people who want to come to our country can get a visa and a very quick background check so that we know the people who come in here are safe. But we're not going to solve those problems with hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising and a new government agency that's run by major corporate sponsors in our country. Tourism is too important to turn over to the government. What a lot of people are concerned about around the country as they look at what we're spending and the level of debt that we're creating, they're concerned that we're ignoring the constitutional principles that we swear an oath to. And they're going to ask us when we vote on this bill, where in the Constitution of the United States do we find the authority to run travel and promotion in this country? You know, major tourism companies like Disney are not having trouble. In fact, I think Disney just reported a $4 billion profit from last year, and they just bought Marvel Comics for $4 billion. Certainly our economy has put a strain on tourism, but the federal government is the last entity that needs to try to bail them out. We don't have any money. We're going to have to borrow money or tax someone to create this new government program. But this is a debate that gets back to what does the Constitution allow us to do? And you can't read the Constitution without seeing some very severe limits on what is expected of this federal government. And certainly the bailouts and the cash for clunkers and this new travel and tourism agency they're starting has nothing to do with our constitutional functions here. Folks, we've got over $11 trillion in debt already in this country. We're projecting to almost double that over the next 10 years with what we already have on the books. With Social Security and Medicare alone, the unfunded liability that we have out many, many years is like $100 trillion. We have no idea where we're going to get all this money. How can we even discuss starting a new government entity when the ones that we've started are really at the heart of our economic problems? You can't understand our economy without seeing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac played a key role in bringing the worldwide economy to its knees. You don't have to look back but 1 month to see what the last government program we created in Cash for Clunkers did. It was going to be a $1 billion 6-month promotion and sell a lot of cars. We were out of money in 1 week and we voted to pass another $2 billion. And a couple of weeks later, they canceled the program. We can't run the travel and promotion industry from Washington, D.C. Folks, I have to draw a very difficult conclusion that any of my fellow senators who vote for this either don't understand the severity of our economic and fiscal problems or they just don't care. They certainly didn't hear the millions of Americans speaking over the August break and telling us that they want us to get back to the business of a constitutional form of government and stop trying to win their votes by bringing home the bacon, wasteful spending and earmarks and new government programs, and all of these false, empty promises that are based on government solutions. I would just encourage my colleagues, let's get the rest of the year started off in a reasonable way. Let's talk about how to fix health care. Let's talk about how to create jobs in America. But for heaven's sakes, let's don't create a new government program as the first vote that we take in the Senate. I thank you, Mr. President. I yield back.